Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 93% rate. Trevor Zegras.
And they score on the lacrosse move!
Jake Gensel.
Gensel banks it towards the goal. He scores!
Cale Makar.
Cale Makar, he scores!
Stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you're a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey.
My goodness gracious me!
Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow at College Hockey.
Welcome to College Hockey Today. I am Jayson Hajdu of College Hockey Inc., joined for the second day in a row by Brad Schlossman of the Grand Forks Herald. It's 2 weeks remaining in college hockey's regular season. 1 week for some leagues, 2 for others. So we'll have a lot to get into in terms of conference and national positioning. But before we do, Schloss, I just wanted to get your Olympic thoughts. Pretty good showing for a lot of college hockey players. 25 in total medaled on the men's side. 4 of the 6 media all-star team selections were college hockey players. Great couple of weeks of hockey.
I was really entertaining hockey in the 2 epic gold medal games, but sorry to our Canadian friends who are listening, ended up on the short side of both. Does it feel like USA has been unbelievable in 3-on-3, like overtimes, from like World Juniors to Women's World Championships to the Olympics? It's just like there's been this unbelievable run in USA hockey in success in 3-on-3. But I mean, you can't ask for anything more than those 2 gold medal games. The women's game was phenomenal. The golden goal that Megan Keller scored was just a ridiculous play. And then the men's game, when that started, the first like 5-10 minutes, I just was thinking, there are NHL All-Stars who can't play in this game because it's that fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, that was incredible level of hockey. And of course, Connor Hellebuyck, I don't know what else you can say about him. He's had an amazing career. I think his college career, he had as many shutouts as he did losses, which is always a pretty good sign. He's had an amazing career with the Winnipeg Jets, winning the MVP, and now just kind of tops it off with, he's kind of been up and down sometimes in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm really delighted to see this Connor Hellebuyck is a big game choker narrative die forever. I never bought it. That's just sports. Jack Morris was a big game pitcher, but no one talks about the postseason where he had a 6+ ERA, right? We have selective memories that way. So I was very happy for Connor Hellebuyck and his performance. The other thing that stood out to me was Macklin Celebrini, who has been a beast all year long in the NHL, just kept doing his thing in the Olympics. I mean, playing on a line with McKinnon and McDavid, but the Macklin Celebrini coming out party just keeps rolling this year.
Wasn't it crazy for all the talent on that Canadian team? And it's like superstars on all 4 lines that they basically had to reduce their lines, and they were running their top 2. That's how much better those top guys were than everyone else. And Macklin Celebrini was one of those guys that they wanted to roll over and over and over as much as they could. He's had an incredible year. He's just a remarkable player, and he was great at the Olympics.
Okay, let's talk college hockey. Before we go league by league, I guess I want to know, what did we learn this weekend?
Well, what we learned is we just recorded a podcast, and I listed like 40 names of free agent guys, and we ended it by saying, I know I forgot guys. And the first signings are going to be guys that we didn't even have on this list. And then I think we stopped recording, and I texted you like 30 minutes later and said, how did I forget Hayden Stavroff? I talked about 2 Dartmouth players and just decided to skip over Hayden Stavroff, apparently. How did I forget Lawton Zocker at Northeastern, who's having an absolutely incredible season? And then that's just where I was thinking, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to miss guys. And those were 2 like egregious misses. But, I guess it just comes down to there are a lot of really good undrafted players in college hockey And a lot of them just, sometimes I put together that list quickly and maybe not quickly, but I still make mistakes.
It's funny when you're in the business of, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, content creation. I remember when I was an SID, I would always tell my staff, I refuse to look at a guide the day it comes back from the printer, because no matter how many times you proofread it, no matter how many sets of eyeballs looked at it, the day it comes back from the printer is always the day you notice every missing comma, every typo, every seemingly obvious mistake. So I feel your pain. Did you hear from people yesterday about omissions, or did you just realize right away that we missed?
No, I think I realized that before it was actually uploaded. So if you listen to that podcast, let us know who we missed. Like, I'm hearing from fans that say, hey, we watch this player every time, you miss this player. Because there are a lot of players who maybe don't have the points that jump off the page, but are, really good NHL prospects and pro prospects that we maybe are missing. So you guys know your teams better than we do. So let us know who are missing. Who should we have had on that list?
We should have had the national goal scoring leader. Yes, absolutely. So what we learned that Schloss is not infallible.
It was that one wasn't one that was hidden in the weeds. That was those were two that were, I was like, oh my goodness, those are not like hidden guys that are like a Marty Lavins with 6 points. Those are whoops.
Onward and upward. Okay, and speaking of which, let's start in Atlantic hockey. Congratulations are in order to Andy Jones and the Bentley Falcons. They won their first ever regular season Atlantic hockey title last weekend. They clinched with a 4-3 win over RIT, a team that made the NCAA tournament a year ago and really gave Boston College everything it could handle in that first round matchup. Now hoisting their first championship banner, and they've been really good from start to finish this season.
Yes, they have. They challenged themselves early in non-conference, played a bunch of really difficult non-conference games on the road, and then all of a sudden Bentley gets into the league play, and the Falcons have been great. They ran away with it. It turns out it's not going to be close. I think there were times this year where, is Sacred Heart going to get in the race? Is Holy Cross going to jump in there? And as it turns out, Bentley's running away with it. And, obviously we talked about the big emergence of Jake Black in the second half and how he's just gone crazy scoring goals. And that certainly helped, but this has been a pretty good team throughout the year. And, they've used a few different goalies during the year. So that's kind of been interesting to follow their goaltender use, but all around, the tournament goes through Bentley this year. They're going to be able to host the tournament throughout. That doesn't guarantee anything, as we know. Bentley had to go on the road last year, and they won in a very hostile environment. Just a tremendous environment in the against Holy Cross to win the final game there to get the NCAA bid. But this year it goes through Bentley.
Yeah, and they will have to win, whether it's Bentley or someone else. They will have to win that tournament to get the tournament bid. I went back and looked at some preseason coverage, and I was looking at the Atlantic Hockey preseason poll. Bentley was picked third. That's not a big deal, and they did receive one first place vote. But nobody made a preseason all-conference team, and only one Falcon even received votes. That was Steven Castagna, who received 2 votes at forward. So just another reminder, I think, that one of the things that makes this sport so great is the unpredictability.
Yeah, and I mean, they had spots open. They lost some really key players off that team. Ethan Lay and Nick Boken were just massively important to that team's success. Nick Armstrong, Kincaid, those were their top 3 scorers last year. AJ Hodges. I looked at what they lost on the back end. They lost a lot of their defensemen from last year, and so I actually had them a little bit lower, I think, even than the coaches. Boken played a ton for them and was a really important player. Samuel Dewar, Tucker Hodgson. when you lose a bunch of your D, you lose your goalie, who was really good for them last year, in Connor Hasley. I thought that's a lot to lose, especially on the back end. But props to Bentley for being able to replace those guys. And props to Tucker Hodgson for accurately predicting that his team was going to be better than I thought. Because when my preseason predictions came out, I got a quick text from Tucker that said, not sure if you're right about Bentley here. And obviously he knows his squad, and he was correct that the Falcons were going to be right back there. And you're right. They've had some guys emerge that have taken those roles and run with them with the opportunity this year.
So this is the final weekend in Atlantic hockey, and 2nd through 7th place is separated by 7 points. It's a log jam. Sacred Heart is tied for 2nd, and they got Ajit Gandara back between the pipes last weekend, and he was really good in a sweep of Holy Cross. Big boost for them.
Yeah, he's obviously been a really key player during his time. Tegan Kendrick did a great job though when he was gone. So Sacred Heart is 2 goalies. We know Felix Trudeau can score goals with the best of them. I've also been really impressed with the season, the kind of a bounce back season that RIT's had. A tough year last year, and RIT's right there in contention for 2nd. Huge series against Holy Cross coming up this weekend. That should be a good one at Holy Cross. And I guess when you have Jakub Kurbacek in net, that's of big help.
No doubt. Okay, let's turn our attention to the Big Ten, where Gavin McKenna went absolutely nuclear last weekend. 7 assists and 8 points Friday against Ohio State. On Saturday, the overtime game winner and an assist for a cool 10-point weekend. Friday, that was the most points we had seen in a game since 1987, and the most assists in a game since 1983. You go back a month and a half here, and Gavin McKenna leads the nation in scoring.
Yeah, this is kind of, I think, what we expected when he came to college hockey this year. Not 8 points, mind you, but someone that could be one of the top scorers in the country. And he had his ups and downs during the first month of the year as a young guy, and now he's come out on the other side, and he's producing just an incredible amount of offense for a team that's quite good offensively already. I feel like he is, we almost forget that this team is without Charlie Serrato right now, with the Dane Dowiak is out for the year. And I think Gavin said, I've got their offense myself here. So Gavin McKenna is putting himself in the Hobie race now. Like I wouldn't have thought that a month ago. Like I would have never thought he'd be in the top 10. He is now entered the Hobie race. He is tied for 5th in the country in scoring this season. You look at points per game, and I think he's 2nd behind Ethan Wittenbach. So
leads the Big Ten too by quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's points so he's all of a sudden becoming a guy who should be considered in the top 10. And obviously he's playing great since the World Juniors, producing just a ton of offense for Penn State. So
been a choppy season. Sorry, I'm just going to move on to Wisconsin here. It's been a bit of a choppy season for the Badgers. They get the big win Friday in a split with Michigan, but then it's confirmed yesterday by Todd Molesky, Logan Hensler, the really good young defenseman, is out for the season. The injury he suffered late January against Minnesota. And maybe the Badgers knew this was coming. Maybe they already knew the diagnosis, but it is public now. So a big loss on the back end for Wisconsin.
That is a tough loss. If there's one thing that helps the Badgers, it's that they are kind of deep on the back end. I do like a lot of their guys who weren't playing a ton of minutes. I think they probably are able to, move up a little bit. But yeah, that is a really tough loss. Wisconsin, a big win against Michigan that on Friday, the 4-1 win. that could shape the Big Ten race a little bit. That was a big one. Impressive performance, really. I mean, Wisconsin outshot them 39-23. That just has not happened to Michigan much this year. Limited the Wolverines just to a power play goal. Eli Pulver, 22 of 23 saves that night, and a really impressive win there. And now all of a sudden, this thing's in Michigan State's hands now. Michigan State closes home against Wisconsin, at Minnesota. Michigan is 1 point ahead, but only has one series left. This is it. So the Spartans have those 2 extra games. The Wolverines close this weekend with Minnesota. That one is in Ann Arbor. So pretty key series for the Wolverines to try to get to put a little bit of pressure on Michigan State. But right now, after last weekend, a big weekend for the Spartans to be able to sweep Notre Dame, and it, the first game, that Thursday night game was not an easy one for Michigan State. Notre Dame put up a pretty good fight in that game. I thought I was able to watch that one. That was Notre Dame's gotten better throughout the year. Like it's been a tough year for the Irish, but they have gotten better as the year's gone along. So, but yeah, that's it. It's in Michigan State's hands now to win that league, and it is important. You get that bye. There's all 7 teams make the tournament, but the number 1 seed gets a bye out of the first round, and they don't have to play that Wednesday, Saturday. They can just play Saturday and wait for someone to come to them. So, that's something we'll be tracking here as the last 2 weeks come down in the Big Ten.
We'll also be tracking the CCHA race. This is the final weekend in that conference where 5 teams mathematically still have a chance to win a conference title.
That is the craziest race in the country. Augustana is the leader right now at 50 points, but Augustana's done for the regular season. So Augie has to sit and hope for chaos below them this weekend. The 2 teams right below, Michigan Tech and St. Thomas, are 2 points back. Michigan Tech hosts Bowling Green, which is 6 points back. St. Thomas plays at Bemidji State. Then you have Minnesota State, which is 4 points back, and the Mavericks play against last place Northern Michigan at home. So I don't know who has the advantage in coming down the stretch. Obviously, Michigan Tech and Bowling Green having to play each other. That is the one matchup where that's a tough matchup for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like it's hard to see either one of those teams getting a sweep there, the way those teams, how consistent both those teams have been. But yeah, it's again. Yeah,
just gonna say we're also keeping an eye on the MPI bubble where there's 4 CCHA teams right there, 15 through 18. There hasn't seemed to be a lot of movement in that range of the bubble lately. So it remains to be seen what will happen this weekend, but that's another thing to keep an eye on here.
Yeah, that if there's one other takeaway, it's that there really hasn't been major shifts along the bubble in the last month. Really, it's been fairly consistent. I think, that league is, and that's a playoff where it's all at home. So every slot is important. Especially I think there are possibilities of upsets in this league, especially. There just is not. There's going to be a team on the road in the quarterfinals who has a chance to win the league with 2 days left. So there's not a huge separation of teams in the standings. We'll see how that plays out, but that certainly has been quite the race to follow the last month, and going into the last weekend, it is not disappointed.
Going into the last weekend, also in the ECAC, where Quinnipiac is on the verge of their 6th straight regular season conference title. They have a 4-point lead on Dartmouth. Going into the pardon me.
I just said shocker. Never would have guessed
right.
Quinnipiac, and it's like they're right back there every year.
So they have a 4-point lead on Dartmouth. Again, final weekend here. Those two will go head to head on Friday, but the Bobcats are in the driver's seat. Much like Bentley, just consistently good all season long.
Not a lot of ebb and flow in Quinnipiac's game this year. Maybe they had a few bumps real early. There was a time, November 7th after that 4-2 loss to Yale, where Quinnipiac was 5-3-2. And, they had some really good performances. Like they looked great against Maine. And then they, took a step back. I think it was really, I watched that game in mid-November where they played BU. And that game was not close. And they just looked so good. And obviously they've been led by a tremendous freshman class. Their top 3 scorers are freshmen. This is not like I feel this is not your typical Quinnipiac team. It's not a team that has a ton of really old defensemen, which has kind of been their MO. They've just found some really good ones, and it's staggering to see what Elliot Gronwald's done this year. He is a 4th round Boston draft pick. He is a plus 38. He's just having a remarkable year. So yeah, Quinnipiac, that Dartmouth game should be great this weekend, by the way. Those are 2 teams that are certainly looking like they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. Quinnipiac's at 7 in the MPI, Dartmouth's at 11. So that should be a wonderful game to track this weekend.
Cornell also sitting 10. So ECAC right now looking like a 3-bid league, barring whatever happens in their conference tournament. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. In Hockey East, Providence can clinch a share, at least a share of its first. Excuse me, I'm going to reset. Providence can clinch at least a share of the Hockey East title this weekend. If they can win it outright, that'd be the first time in program history. We've talked about that a lot. And in terms of the national picture, BC at 12, UConn at 14, both on the right side of the bubble as well in Hockey East.
Yeah, and you know what? If we're going to, UConn has a really challenging schedule coming down the stretch. UConn's kind of sitting at that bubble. UConn plays a home and home against UMass, and then it's a single game against New Hampshire and a single game against Providence. So that series against UMass this weekend is going to be just a huge series for UConn, which is 14 in the MPI. Well, UMass is sitting at 19. Can UMass crawl up into that range? We'll see. But UMass has been pretty good in the second half. So that should be a massive series. And then Boston College, we have games number 3 and number 4 between BU and BC in the ComAv battle. BC has a 2-0 lead in that series. They've played, this will be 4 times in the span of a month. And BC is really working its way into a great position with a really nice second half. And last weekend, sweeping UConn was huge for BC. BC won the first game 5-2, and then the second night at UConn 2-1 in overtime. Lucas Gustafson with the OT winner in that one. So huge weekend for BC to kind of solidify itself a little bit in the NCAA tournament picture, but it's not an easy road for BC either. BU, UMass, Northeastern is the last 4 coming up there. So
8 wins in the last 10 games for BC. Let's switch to the NCHC, where a lot of eyes will be on the series you'll be covering in Kalamazoo, Michigan. North Dakota needs 1 point at Western Michigan to clinch a share of the Penrose Cup, and 2 points, correct me if I'm wrong, to win it outright. Massive series. Also, both those teams inside the top 5 in the MPI.
Yeah, and they haven't played yet this year. So the first
Right.
meeting between North Dakota and Western Michigan, the Penrose Cup is on the line. The commissioner will be there, and one of the two teams is going to be lifting the Penrose Cup. If UND gets 1 point, it will be UND. If UND does not, it will be Western Michigan. I think this is the first time since 2015 when you and I were in Oxford, Ohio, where the Penrose Cup could have gone to the same, it came down to North Dakota or Miami that weekend. And then they were playing head to head. So a lot of times it comes down to the last weekend, but usually it's not going to a destination, and either team could win it. So it should be a great series. This, barring a postseason meeting, this will be my last time in Lawson Ice Arena. North Dakota does not play at Western Michigan next year in the regular season. So unless they meet in the playoffs this year or next year, this is it. So I'm going to be very nostalgic this weekend. I love that. It's not a lot of amenities at that place. So I understand why they're getting a new one, but there's something about that building that's pretty cool. And the atmosphere is great. So it's all the Lawson Lunatics are going to be fired up. Friday's going to be interesting too, because I think Western Michigan hosts Miami's undefeated men's basketball team at home. So
nice.
What a weekend for the Western Michigan students. That'll be a great series to decide the number 1 seed in the NCHC. I should point out, Denver can still earn a share of the title as well. Denver cannot win the 1 seed because at best it would be tied with North Dakota or Western. They lose the tiebreaker, but if they end up tied in the NCHC, both are declared Penrose Cup champions. They do have 2 Penrose Cups. Heather Weems will be in Kalamazoo with 1. Michael Wiseman will be in Denver with the other. They will be ready for whatever happens this weekend.
North Dakota and Western Michigan both took very different routes to get to this point. North Dakota had to, with the coaching change, basically revamp more than half the roster on the fly in the summer. Western Michigan, it's never easy as a defending champ. The following season, we all know about the championship hangover narrative. You lose players to the pros. Things just change in the locker room a lot of times. But here we are, those two teams at the top of the standings. There's intrigue at the top, but there's also intrigue at the bottom, actually, where one team is going to miss out on the NCHC playoffs, and we don't know which team that will be yet.
Yeah, ASU is up by 1 point on Omaha, but ASU has to go to Denver. Not easy trip for there. And Denver's playing to try to win, a share of the league title. That's a very motivated Denver team. Omaha plays Miami. I mean, Miami still could finish last if things break certain ways. So the standings in the bottom half of the NCHC are going to be shuffled here in the last weekend. So, yeah, it should be a really good final weekend in the league.
On the independent scene, everyone is idle except Alaska and Alaska Anchorage. Those two teams will close out their Governor's Cup series, which the Nanooks have already clinched. And then we turn our attention to the first ever United Collegiate Hockey Cup in early March, hosted by Lindenwood. Right now, Alaska and Lindenwood are the 1-2 seeds for that. But one more go at it here for the Nanooks and the Seawolves.
Yeah, this one's up in Fairbanks, so they close the season in Fairbanks. But man, the Nanooks still able to hold on to Governor's Cup. They had a wild one last week where the game was tied 2-2 going into the third, and Fairbanks scored 4 times. One was an empty netter to win that one. So, it's Alaska Anchorage put up a pretty good fight this year, just not enough to get over the hump against the Nanooks.
7 wins in the last 9 games for Alaska, so they're playing their best hockey at the right time of the year. Okay, that does our rip around the country. We already previewed the North Dakota-Western Michigan series. What else are you looking forward to this weekend as we wind things down in the regular season?
And I think my score tracker is going to be heavily on the CCHA this weekend. That's just an incredible race. It's going to be really fun to see how that plays out. The other one, I think that a lot of fans of bubble teams we'll be watching is that UConn UMass series. That has massive implications for the NCAA tournament. Should be a really good one. You know, I just think those are some big series that, you know, have in the national picture. They're not just for those teams. I think they're big for everyone around college hockey. And, you know, we mentioned that Quinnipiac Dartmouth game should be a wonderful game. You know, I think those are some big ones that I'm looking forward to.
We're almost there. 2 weeks to go in the regular season, and for some leagues, this is it this weekend. So, best time of year, no question about it. Before I let you go, what are you working on before you head out to Kalamazoo?
Well, I think I am going to do a little bit of a story on Lawson in North Dakota, potentially going there for the last time. I'm going to talk to Jim Scanlon. If you watch North Dakota broadcasts, he is the color guy. Jim Scanlon has been an assistant coach for both North Dakota and Western Michigan, and I believe he is making the trip out to Lawson Ice Arena this weekend to see both of his teams play for the last time there. So that should be a cool one. February is Black History Month. North Dakota, EJ Emery, defenseman who's playing very well for them this year. He is the second Black player to play at North Dakota. The first is Akil Adams, who played in the 1990s. I just talked to Akil, and it was fun chatting with him and hearing his background of coming out of, he said, a rough neighborhood in Detroit to make it to Division I hockey. Really fun to chat with Akil today.
Awesome. We'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to that series as well. Safe travels. I know you always enjoy that trip. Have a good time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Jason.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Kate and Chris for helping make this show happen. Thank you, as always, for listening. Like I said, best time of the year. Enjoy the hockey.